everybody. I'm here today to talk to you about TLM Aurora from SmartStream and its brand new module, Advanced Payments Control. The payment landscape is rapidly changing. With the introduction of things like ISO 20022, instant payments, blockchains such as Ripple, we are constantly faced with more and more formats. How do we manage that and the cost involved in implementing those? Well, advanced payment control is all around consolidating exception management for all those different payment rails and all those different formats, and increasing the turnaround time in exceptions. One of the things that we see is the speed of payments is ever increasing, and the challenges that we face is how to manage the expectations of clients. If clients can now make a payment within 5 minutes, how to explain to them that it takes multiple days to follow up if there's an exception? This is very important because it's reputational. Also, the cost of exceptions are huge. Ultimately, exceptions represent 80% of your cost and 100% of your risk. With the Swift Global Payment Initiative, GPI, things are changing rapidly. The introduction of tracking is a very good move. However, tracking does not include the management of exceptions. And GPI actually stipulates rule books, what to send and when in the case of an exception. This is being very similarly done in systems like SEPA. So how do you keep up with those rule books, and how do you keep up with that ever-increasing amount of messages being introduced? The other thing that's challenging is that GPI also requires that you provide status on third-party payments that you conduct. Again, this means you will have to get third-party payment systems to talk in the GPI language. Who could take care of that for you? Well, Advanced Payments Control can. The world is obviously changing, as we all know. And one of the things that we've all been through is different cycles. So we've all talked about automation. We've all talked about ROI, and we've talked about them for many years. But now, with fintech companies beginning to provide services directly to clients, financial institutions are becoming more and more pushed into the background. This means that they have to concentrate on a different type of service. So fintech providers and customers will be looking in the future more and more for return of excellence, and this is a factor you should be calculating in. The other thing is, how do we deal with exceptions, and how do we move forward? So previously, everything's always been activity-based, and now slowly we are getting more and more intelligent systems. So advanced payment control is about institutionalizing process into software. And in the next step, and a step that we are shortly doing, we will be institutionalizing knowledge into the software. This will give you much more independence and flexibility. We've seen a lot of changes, and we've seen a lot of changes in things like how software is delivered. SmartStream started with on-demand 13 years ago, when nobody understood what we were talking about. Thank goodness companies like Apple and Google came along and introduced the concept of cloud, and that meant people suddenly understood the message we were trying to send. We have long moved to serverless environments, and this has given us a great advantage. And I think we've especially seen that during the COVID-19 crisis, because we have literally been able to provide to our customers zero downtime and keep all SLAs throughout the crisis, despite some of their employees working from home. So that leads us to the last part, and that is we will be having staff challenges. This is being further accentuated obviously by the fluctuation introduced by COVID-19. But it's always been very expensive to train people, and we found recently that it's more and more difficult to find really skilled staff. So one of the things that we have really been looking at is how to introduce software that makes staff's life easier, that they can learn it quickly, that it's much more intuitive. And so that's what we're going to be looking at. I've now logged into TLM Aurora. The menu to the left allows users to search for specific payments or exceptions via inquiries. Normally, a user will, however, choose a specific payment type to work on, represented by the options SWIFT or SEPA. There could be more payment rails to choose from here, depending on what business you conduct or choose to implement. If I select SWIFT, the first thing you see is that users are presented with tasks. Users don't look for data in TLM Aurora, the data finds them. Tasks are represented simply left to right, top to bottom. When an inquiry comes from a correspondent bank, the system will automatically find the original payment you made, create a case, and assign it to a user as a new case. So this is what the user looks at first. Similarly, the system shows the user when he has cases which are overdue or have received new replies. The approvals task is when you wish to have a maker checker or 4i principal for outgoing messages or closing cases. This is completely optional according to the rules your organization wishes to enforce. Last but not least, the column to the very right allows users to search for GPI payments or start new initiation requests according to GSRP or GCase, which will be implemented by SWIFT in November. It also allows users to view status updates in the GPI tracker or any ongoing stop and recall cases. Let's have a look at how cases are represented. I will choose the New Replies task, which shows you there are 4 cases with new replies. The first thing you see is a summary of all those 4 cases. I can see the status, the case IDs, the data types, the exception types, the categories, the age, and if they're overdue or not. If I click on one of these cases, I get into the case summary screen. The top part of the screen is again a summary, so I can see key information such as the owner, the department it belongs to, the risk amount, or key dates such as the last edit or the created date or the day that it will be due. I can do actions such as closing the case. I could transfer the ownership to another user or look at the case log. Additionally, I can choose to look at the audit timeline, which basically shows me every action that was conducted on the case. The bottom half of the screen shows me key information which belongs to the case. Things like the messages that were exchanged, the attachments that belong to the case, the underlying items, and the overview overall of the case. You see now at the bottom I have received a message. I can now look at that message by expanding the window. I can see that this is a SWIFT 192, which is a request for cancellation. So from here, I could just send a new message in reply to this, allowing me to choose things like the carrier, the SWIFT email, or what sort of message I want to send. It also allows me to put in things like a resubmission date, which controls when automatic chases are sent. The other thing that we can see in the screens are any attachments that maybe are attached to the case. So this allows me to document fully the entire progress of the case. I can also see the underlying item, so this is the actual payment, and I can see the overview of the case. The overview of the case allows me to register things like impact, escalation levels. It also allows me to record things like how much are we paying in fees or charges with compensation amounts and currencies. And it also allows me to document things like who was the erring party or what was the reason for fail. This is very important if I want to get a strategic overview of how to improve my payments. Talking of strategy, let's have a look how the analytics are in advanced payment control. Analytics provide you with insight as to how your business is running. So here in the top left, I can show you the current overall risk exposure in your own base currency. This is further broken down into the risk per payment rail. The same feature also allows us to split the case type overview.
so we can see it again according to the different payment rails. Or even give you a top 5 correspondent ranking in terms of aging analysis. So I can take a global view, or I can see the performance per payment rail. It also allows us to monitor performance. So the middle screen is showing you a comparison between cases created and cases closed. Orange means I'm creating more cases than closing, so basically creating a backlog of work. Blue means I'm reducing that backlog, so it's showing me exactly how my performance is going at the moment. I can even view that across different time periods. In this presentation, I talked a lot about legacy. SmartStream has more than 40 years of experience in control, which we can leverage for the future. Today, we have more than 2,000 clients using our solutions on a daily basis, either on-premise, in the cloud, or as a fully managed service, and nearly all of our solutions already employ AI. Next is the future, institutionalizing process and knowledge with the further deployment of artificial intelligence and continuing to simplify complicated processes even more so you are ready to provide the return of excellence your customers desire.